In this brief video, I will talk about some tools and strategies I could tell you to support you in your freelance work, doing contract work, or even for those who are interested in starting your own design studio. The first and most important step or cut you have to do is you need to separate yourself from your private identity. You need to create a new identity. You're not presenting you, the student, you're representing you, the professional. So that means we will start with an email address. What you see here is just a demo email account I have with Gmail. I use this for a lot of demonstration purposes. This is not the regular email address I use. Gmail is kind of okay. Hotmail or Yahoo, I don't know. You can, but I wouldn't. When you select a name, really do a name that is good. Ideally, maybe a company, an artistic name, something that's also easy to memorize. But in the best case, you just really want to get your own website. So maybe let's go to GoDaddy or whatever Squarespace service you can get. And what these websites basically offer you is not only a domain, they also offer you the email address. So you could say, for example, info@amazingdesign.com, whatever you selected. No? Makes sense. And then when this is done, this is kind of like your infrastructure. Obviously, set up a new LinkedIn profile. Or to the LinkedIn profile you have, since this should be professional anyway, you connect now your professional email address to. Really important. Don't use your private stuff. After you created your professional LinkedIn profile, it's also time to set up your professional identity. And for that, I can suggest get an LLC. For example, LegalZoom is very easy to use. It doesn't cost very much, starting at 89 plus filing fees. That's kind of peanuts. The nice thing about an LLC, limited liability, is simply you protect your private assets. In design, normally we don't do something where something can go so crazy wrong that we can be sued, but you never know. So it's not really much to pay for. It's good to have. And yeah, it looks much better on your website when you could say Amazing Design LLC than Amazing Design at Yahoo, Hotmail, wherever. Now you get my point. Now you don't necessarily want to have a new phone line, another smartphone, or also use your private smartphone phone number. So let's Google Voice. This is actually a really fantastic service. Runs on Mac PC, iOS, Android, and essentially it is a phone number people can call, send text messages to, and it is a phone number you could use to call people. So you can hide yourself behind that number. Hide is maybe the wrong name. It essentially is a real number. It just exists digitally. There's no physical phone line that exists. If somebody calls you on that number, you can make it ring on all your internet devices in your browser, or you can also forward it to your physical phone number, like your smartphone. You have a voicemail, you can create a greeting introduction, and so forth. So it's actually really good, and it also works internationally, which is amazing. Really good service. And I think it's basically free. Google does a little bit of changes now recently with their Google Workspaces or so, but even there, the costs are not really that much. So with the website, now you can GoDaddy website, you can use Wix, or you can use Google Site. I find again the Google Site very useful, particularly also when we pair this together with Google Domain. Works really great. And another really good tool, honestly, is also if you want to use Google for a lot of your main communication. So I go into Google, log in, Gmail, and there we are. So this is actually now the private Gmail address. And you can also set actually this up so that you can use an external email service. That's an actually part of Google Workspace. That's kind of like $6 per month. So it's not really that much per year. You can do this. If you don't want to really make your own domain and everything or hosting with an email, but you just say amazingdesign@gmail.com, that's good. Then you can use Google Voice and then Gmail and also all the chat and meeting functions together, which is actually maybe not too bad too. What is actually quite nice about the whole Google service is also all the apps that come with it. So you could use Google Docs to write your invoices or use Google Sheet to track time. So I actually do all my invoices by hand. So this is, for example, a template I have now with my logo, invoice, the address, the date, invoice number, what this is for, and blah, 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 blah. No, basic stuff. And then all this, I would make a copy and go to Google Sheet and, for example, make an entry that I did something this month. So I keep track of it. Bookkeeping is really a very, very important task when running your own business or so, particularly when it comes to expenses, taxes, etc. So you really want to just not slack in that part. There are also programs that do all the stuff for you, time tracking, billing, and all the stuff. They cost money. I simply went with the old-fashioned pen paper manual process. Talking about time tracking, the tool I really cannot live without is Toggle. This is actually an amazing service. It runs in a browser, Mac and PC. It runs on Android and iOS, iPhone, tablet, whatever. And for example, here I can just start tracking, stop tracking. It is really great. This is one of the biggest and most annoying part actually of tracking your time, because you so quickly do something, stop, go to somewhere else, stop, go back. And then later you forget about, well, how much time did I actually really spend on a client's task, particularly like during this pandemic when you work from home, or later, even without a pandemic, you will work from home. For example, here you see some entries, kind of like the task I did, the project I worked on, the client. So I can type in what I did, then attach it to a client or project, the time. And then later I can generate reports and say, good, so last year, how much time did I spend on what? And it basically gives you then a good summary, and then you can export this as an Excel sheet. So for example, if you want to write invoices, you know then exactly how much time did you spend on a particular project, so you can put this in here. It's really good, particularly also if a client asks, well, why is this invoice this and this? Then basically you could say, look, these are the individual tasks I did. This is how long this took. This is the agreed fee on what we did. So this is the invoice. So they understand it. And that's kind of it. So you saw actually not too much. That's really the beauty of it. You can, of course, make this more complicated, more intensive as one wants. But this is the way how I operate since basically from the beginning, we're Excel or a spreadsheet. I keep track of all my expenses. I use Toggle to do all my time tracking. I use my custom email in Gmail to stay in contact with my clients, and I use Toggle to keep track of all my hours. And yeah, that's it. I hope this was informative.